Forerunner 955. So these birds are just having a great time. Hi guys, it's Matt here. How's everyone doing? I hope everyone's doing fabulous. I'm back with another review. And this is more like a first look review as opposed to a full review that comes a bit later, in a couple of weeks later. Anyhow, I'm going to be reviewing / first looking at the Garmin Forerunner 955 Solar, which is just being announced as we speak. Well, Garmin very kindly sent me a review sample ahead of the launch, which is happening tomorrow. And I spent a couple of days with the watch. Sadly, I have not been able to test all its features, but I spent like 48 hours with the watch, and I thought I'm going to share with you what I found out about the watch, what I like about the watch, what I don't like about the watch, and kind of talk you through the basic specs of the watch. Again, there is a full review coming in the coming weeks. I guess it's just going to be like a first look review, you know, just the initial sort of thoughts about the watch. Nothing too serious. Again, these things, my thoughts, the features, like how they perform might change over time. So please do take everything that I've got to say with a pinch of salt. Without further ado, let's talk about the specs of the Garmin Forerunner 955 Solar. The Garmin Forerunner 955 Solar and then the non-solar version, the Garmin Forerunner 955, was launched on the 1st of June, on Global Running Day actually. This is Garmin's top-of-the-range Forerunner watch, which is basically the best triathlon watch money can buy. The watch is around 52 grams with the strap. It has the same size screen from what I can tell, which is a 1.2 inch / 30mm memory in pixel display, similar to what the Forerunner 945 had. Resolution wise, again, from what I can tell, it's pretty similar. So it's 240 pixels times 240 pixels, not terrible. What is new is the touchscreen display. I'm going to be talking about the touchscreen display very, very shortly. And Garmin also added solar charging to the 955, which is great. Again, something I'm going to cover very, very shortly. As well as that, I think what I should mention is that the battery life has been increased from the 945, obviously, because you got the solar charging. But even without the solar charging, I guess it would be a little bit better. So the battery life on the Garmin Forerunner 955 is 20 days. Is it? Yes, it's 20 days in smartwatch mode and 49 hours in GPS tracking mode. And compare this with the 945's 14 days battery life. I think it was 36 hours in GPS tracking, so a significant improvements in battery life. As well as that, you got the usual 5-button layout, memory and pixel screen, as I mentioned before, a silicone strap. The Garmin Forerunner 955 also features the latest Elevate V5 optical heart rate sensor, and a new GPS unit as well, which again I'm going to be talking about very, very shortly. Let's talk about 5 things. No, I think it's actually 6 things that I like about the new Garmin Forerunner 955. First of them is being obviously the inclusion of solar charging, which is great. I did like this on the Phoenix 7X as well, something I reviewed very, very recently. It's just nice to have this feature. Obviously it extends battery life, which is great, because who likes charging their watches? No one. So with the solar charging now, you got a lot of extra juice out of the watch and the battery, as long as obviously you expose it to a certain degree of sunlight. The second feature I like on the 955 is that Garmin added the heart rate variability feature, which is something I really liked in the Whoop fitness tracker. So heart rate variability is basically the variation between the heartbeats, your heartbeats. So imagine that you have a 60 beat per minute heart rate, at any given time. Obviously it changes over time, but even if it's 60 beat per minute, that doesn't mean that it's like a metronome, that it like beats 1 time per second. There are like difference between each heartbeat, and heart rate variability measures this difference and puts like an average on it. So heart rate variability is measured during sleeping, and it is a good indicator of how well prepared your body is for kind of hardcore exercising. You would be surprised, because I was surprised to learn that the bigger the heart rate variability, the more ready your body is for exercising, which might sound weird, but it is actually the case. So a larger heart rate variability is good, essentially, long story short. So the 955 measures heart rate variability. It does take the watch roughly 3 weeks to calibrate this feature. So I've only been tracking one sleep with the watch so far, and it gave me the heart rate variability of, I think it was 69 average for the last sleep that I had, which was an 8-hour sleep. Apparently it was an excellent sleep as well. And apparently my maximum heart rate variability for the night was 91 millisecond. I think it measures in millisecond. So it's very good. I found this feature very useful in when I was testing the Whoop 4.0 tracker back in the day, a few months ago. It's just yet another sort of layer of training and recovery data that is you know, coming from the watch. It's always nice to see. The third thing that I like about the Garmin Forerunner 955 is the kind of leads, so the heart rate variability, it kind of feeds into this feature, which is the training readiness. So the Garmin Forerunner 955 can give you a number, so basically put a label on your training readiness every day based on heart rate variability, sleep, and a bunch of other things that it measures in the background. Training readiness feature is based on First Bit Analytics algorithm, the same algorithm that calculates basically heart rate and you know, estimates VO2 max. So it is, we would hope it's pretty accurate. Again, only time will tell, but because it's a number that the Garmin basically came up with, it will be quite hard to measure how accurate it is. Although, based on the metrics that it takes into account, I would like to think that at least it's gonna be at least somewhat useful. So that's the third thing that I really like about the watch. The fourth thing that I really like is the stamina, which is something I really liked in the Fenix 7X. I still like the stamina. So stamina is being measured either when you run or when you cycle. Again, it's something that the data field needs to be added. It's not added automatically in the usual Garmin fashion. So you have to go into the run settings or the cycle settings and enable the stamina data field. Basically, you got given two different the stamina meters. You got a short-term stamina and a long-term stamina. And as you run or as you cycle, you do that sort of endurance training, the stamina is going to decrease or increase, you know, as you exercise. I use it very often on the 7X as my main screen to see how, you know, how my pace affects my stamina. And again, I found it kind of useful to see if I'm pushing myself too much, because then the short-term stamina is going to go down, you know, quite significantly. So I know that I have to slow down. And then speaking of features that came from the Fenix and then the Epic series, the Garmin Forerunner 955 also has multi-band GPS, which is this fifth thing that I like about the watch. Again, it has the it has access, I think, to 5 different satellite systems, plus it has this dual band GPS, so it latches on to the GPS signal very fast, and it also measures, you know, distance and position very accurately. This is great to have on the watch. I did give it a try. It's pretty accurate from what I can tell. Again, some further testing is required to see if there's any changes compared to the Fenix 7X. I would like to think that it's going to be pretty good in terms of GPS, the Forerunner 955. And finally, the last thing that I really like about the Garmin Forerunner 955 is a new feature, which is called the morning report, which is like the cutest little thing. It definitely works when you sleep. I haven't tried it like when I didn't sleep, because I only wore it for one night. So in the morning, instead of seeing like the generic watch face, you see a little illustration of, I think it's like a mountain range with like a sun kind of coming up behind the mountain range. And then you press the buttons, one of the buttons, the watch is going to ask you if you're ready for your morning report, and then you say obviously yes. So it gives you a little rundown of the weather, if it's connected to the phone, like your sleep stats, your heart rate variability, and other bits and bobs. I think it's really cute. It's just a fun thing to, you know, just to wake up in the morning to. You know, you can just like quickly have a glance of what happened during the night, you know, how ready your body is for exercising and all that stuff. So I think it's a cute addition. So let's talk about the 3 things that I don't really like about the Garmin Forerunner 955 Solar. They're nothing major. It's just because it's a top of the line Forerunner. I guess I always expect the best of these watches. None of these are really a deal breaker. Even with the kind of issues that I have, the watch is still very accurate and stuff. But there are some things that I just don't like, or I wish were different. And 2 of these things actually has something to do with the screen, more like the display of the watch. It's 2022. And the Garmin, like the top of the line Forerunner, still hasn't got an AMOLED screen. For me, You got the Garmin Venue 2, which already has a very good AMOLED screen and a very decent battery life, and there are other running watches with an AMOLED screen, such as the Huawei GT Runner, with an okay battery life as well. And I appreciate that the Garmin wouldn't include the solar charging feature if it had an AMOLED screen, because back in the day when the Epix was launched, I spoke to someone from Garmin and asked them the question, why wouldn't the Epix come with the Power Glass solar charging, feature? And they said that adding the solar charging on that AMOLED, on that particular large AMOLED screen, wouldn't have provided enough tangible user benefit to people, and it would have increased the price. So they decided not to include it just yet. I can only assume that going forward in a couple of years' time, when the Power Glass is even further improved, this is going to be introduced on AMOLED watches as well, even at Garmin. But now, if it's either solar charging or AMOLED screen. However, the 955 already comes in a non-solar version, and hasn't got the AMOLED screen. And then considering that it has features such as the morning report, I think it would just look better if there was it would be better to have like an AMOLED option as well for people if they prefer that sort of thing. I definitely would not mind having my top of the line Forerunner with an AMOLED screen, but that might just be me. So that's the first thing. The second thing I don't like about the Forerunner 955 is also screen related, is the touchscreen. Again, it works pretty well. However, it's not quite as smooth as on the Phoenix 7X. I appreciate that this is an early kind of model, so it could change and it could be improved, and I'm sure it will be. However, it's a bit wobbly here and there when you try to scroll. Nothing deal breaker, is just a bit like, I would expect the best Forerunner to be perfect essentially, and it isn't in terms of the touchscreen performance. It's more than usable. And it's nothing. And again, you can still use the buttons around the edge, so around the case of the watch, to navigate the watch and then the user interface. So even if it's like, oh, I can't stand the touch screen, you can still use the buttons. So it's all fine. Again, it's nothing too major. And then the third thing is that I don't like about the 955 is a new feature actually, which is native running power. So the 955 finally measures running power on the wrist, which is something that we already saw in the Chorus Pace 2, or the Polar watches, the Vantage V2, or the new Pacer Pro, which I reviewed earlier. But unlike those watches, the 955 requires an external sensor, which is either a running pod or a heart rate monitor to measure running power. Which again, I'm like, again, this is not a cheap watch as it is, and it still requires an external sensor to measure running power. Again, it's great to have the running power, and I assume if you're a pro athlete, you're going to have probably at least the running pod, or more like the Garmin HRM Pro heart rate strap. However, it would have been nice if the watch just did it, in itself, so I wouldn't have to strap on anything else just to watch. But this is what it is. And speaking of obviously spending extra money, the watch is understandably not the cheapest. I believe the solar version in the US costs $600 and it's £550 in the UK, and then the non-solar version is, I believe it's $500 in the US and £470 in the UK. So again, not cheap, and then you would have to buy an extra sensor for whatever, $60 or £60 or £80 or $80. It's a pretty expensive combination of things. So that concludes my first look kind of review of the Garmin Forerunner 955 Solar. All of the negative things aside, and taking all the positive things into account, I am very excited to give this watch a try in the next few weeks to see how it performs. I will give the running power a try to see how that performs. I can't wait to see how my heart rate variability, and then especially my training readiness, shapes up to be. Those are going to be all very exciting to test, and I look forward to see even more of my morning reports, because they're just very, very cute. I'll be back with a full review after a few weeks, probably late June, when I got like I gathered enough training data so I can formulate a final opinion. And until then, guys, stay tuned. Again, as always, if you like the video, please leave a like, consider subscribing to the channel. It means a lot to me, and stay tuned for more reviews. Thanks guys, speak soon.